Aoba is a poor, ugly idiot who lives with his grandmother and wastes away working in a junk store. However, his simple life gets shattered after he was drawn into the popular cyber game, Rime. Along the way, he meets diverse characters and tries to understand his mysterious powers. It was just a normal day for Aoba in Midorijima, as he is seen at work taking calls from customers to process their orders. However, he got exhausted when they blushed over his voice, instead of staying focused on business. He received an email, and as he was about to check it, he got a surprise bop on the head with a stick by three siblings Kyo, Nao, and Mio, who regularly came over to junk store mediocrity to play. Aoba berated them for always playing, but they are carefree about it. His device chimed, and he suspected it to be malfunctioning, since it was operating on its own. Suddenly, his boss walked in with a package and asked Aoba to help him deliver the package. As soon as Aoba stepped out to do as he was told, the chaotic children pissed off the... On his way out to deliver the package with his allmate, Ren, Aoba encountered his childhood friend, Kujaku, and his allmate, Benny. Kujaku teased him a bit and commented on how long his hair had grown again. Feeling embarrassed that a professional hairstylist like Kujaku was taking a close look at his messy hair, Aoba told him he was going to cut it, but Kujaku told him it's not bad. Two girls who obviously had the hots for Kujaku approached them and booked a hair appointment with Kujaku. Hearing his voice, they were love-struck, but their eyes diverted to Aoba, who they looked at like a useless piece of shit. Seeing their menacing eyes, Aoba headed off to deliver his package to Yoshi. Briefly, he reminisced about the time he was being bullied for looking like a girl because of his long hair, but Kujaku came to his rescue, defended him, and that was how they became childhood friends. Aoba finally arrived at Yoshi's place, and she was excited to see him after receiving her package. Yoshi forced Aoba to stay till nightfall, and happily served him food and watched him eat while his allmate Ren got all cozy with Yoshi's allmate Clara. On his way back home, Aoba was stopped and harassed by members of Ribsty's group, Bug Bomb. The punks wanted Aoba's fancy jacket, but he refused to hand it over. They tried frightening him with their tattoo, which showed they're members of Bug Bomb.
I fear no man.
But Aoba told them they were worthless garbage that looked lame, which pissed them off. However, Aoba's friend, Mizuki, stepped in and took down a few of the punks, and on realizing that he is the leader of Dry Juice, the punks ran off with their tails between their legs. Mizuki told Aoba that he gets harassed so often because he is not part of a Ribsty's group and offered him a spot in his team, Dry Juice, but Aoba declined the offer. The duo sat down at a corner to talk, and Mizuki looked worried, so Aoba asked if his team is on good terms with Kujaku's team, Benishigur. Mizuki replied that he was not worried about that, but he was worried about the cyber game, Rime becoming popular once again and overshadowing Ribsty's. He described the game as delusional and tells Aoba of the mysterious disappearances of several Ribsty's groups, rumored to be the works of the mythical group, Morphine, and how one of the victims who returned ended up like a zombie, forgetting his own name and identity. Their conversation was interrupted by some guys running towards an alley where the Rime game was being played. Feeling uninterested, Mizuki told Aoba he was going, and Aoba headed towards the alley. After he saw a mysterious female figure, he decided to watch the Rime game, but suddenly, he got a migraine and started to leave. He is stopped in his tracks by his old friends, Virus and Trip, who were surprised to see him at a Rime game. They asked Aoba if he was interested in playing Rime once more, but he said he wasn't. Suddenly, the Rime game is interrupted by a police officer, Akushima, causing everyone to panic and start running. Aoba joined those running and hurried back home, but he bumped into a scary-looking guy. He apologized, but the guy simply ignored him like trash and rode off on his bike, leaving Aoba wondering who he was. Aoba returned home to a good scolding from his dear old grandma Tay, who was very pissed at him for not locking the front door when he was leaving the house. She told him she wouldn't die in peace if he was so unreliable, which made Aoba feel bad. After they both ate dinner together, Aoba apologized to his grandma for being careless with the door while begging her not to talk about dying anymore, because if she dies, no one will lock the door for him when he forgets.
Wait for it. Here it comes.
In anger, Grandma threw her chopsticks at him, but Aoba runs off laughing, leaving Grandma with a smile too. While lost in his thoughts at his balcony, Ren called his attention to the download he received earlier. Aoba opened the automatic download to find out that it was an old-fashioned game called Silent Oath, though the contents and operations of the game left him baffled. The following day, Aoba was sent out by his boss to make another delivery, but on his way, he and Ren are caught up in a rhyme field and pulled into a forced rhyme battle by a figure in a rabbit costume. The player ordered Aoba to play the game and addressed him as Sly Blue, which left Aoba confused as he had no recollection of ever playing rhyme before. He was even more astonished that the player addressed him by his full name, Aoba Saragaki. Without any warning, the player continuously attacked Aoba. He told Ren to try logging out of the game, but Ren informed him that the logout button was removed.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
One of the rabbit's attacks landed on Aoba, and he wondered why he felt so much pain since it was a virtual game. Ren explained to him that the feature to block off pain was also turned off, so any pain felt by Aoba in the game would affect his real body. As the attacks grew worse, Aoba got a headache and his persona suddenly changed. He instructed Ren to use a special skill, which he did by sending the rabbits that came to attack them flying away. With a smirk on his face, he released another powerful attack at his opponent after muttering, "Destruction and death." Immediately after Aoba's first attack on his opponents, his normal personality reappeared with no memories of what he just did. The mysterious player got his rabbit all-mates to relentlessly attack Aoba and Ren once more, which broke their barrier and dealt heavy damage on both of them. The mysterious player thought Aoba was not a worthy opponent and tried logging off, but his rabbit all-mate called to his attention that Aoba was healing at an alarming speed. To their surprise, Aoba stood tall, as his other personality had taken over again.
Everybody wants to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
He completely destroyed the rhyme field, ending the battle by muttering the words, "destruction and death." Aoba's and Ren's unconscious bodies were safely taken back to junk store mediocrity by a man wearing a gas mask, who called Aoba Master. When they awakened, Aoba and Ren both found themselves in front of mediocrity, with no memories of how the battle ended. Aoba is worried about Ren taking severe damage from their opponent's attacks, and decided to examine his data thoroughly at home after Ren complained that it might have been corrupted. However, Aoba was still feeling dizzy, so Ren headed into the store to get the boss to help carry him inside. Meanwhile, elsewhere at a place called Platinum Jail, a group of operators are seen in an ICT lab at the Oval Tower, working on footage from rhyme battles, and Aoba's recent battle with the rabbit piqued their interest, so it was forwarded to the director, Tua. They seem to have taken an interest in Aoba's rhyme battle skill, Destruction and Death. Back at mediocrity, Aoba's boss checked up on him, and Aoba apologized for losing the package he was meant to deliver. He tried to get up, but once again he got a strong headache, prompting his boss to tell him to go home and get some rest. Aoba is worried about the shop, but his boss insisted that he go home. On his way back home, he discussed the rhyme battle they just had with his all-mate, Ren. Ren told him that he might have good experience in rhyme battles, as he was giving precise orders during their battle, but Aoba still couldn't believe it. He arrived home and informed his grandma that his medications weren't working, as his headaches were getting worse. With a suspicious look on her face, she suggested that they increase his dose next time. Later that night, Aoba called Virus and Trip to ask them if he played rhyme before, because his memory ever since the accident a few years ago was still hazy. While hanging around in an alley with Morphine's tag art and most of its members on the floor, they claimed that Aoba never played rhyme. Aoba remembered to check Ren's data as he promised and connected to his system, only to discover that his all-mate's reaction speed was down, so he fixed it and apologized to Ren for all the troubles before they both retired to bed. Few hours later, Aoba is woken up from sleep by Kujaku's all-mate, Benny. Apparently, Kujaku came over to stay for the night, so Aoba explains to him how he was dragged into a rhyme battle earlier. Kujaku was concerned after hearing this, and called the battle a planned attack. He went on to advise Aoba to be careful, as he was lucky to have won the battle and left the rhyme field alive, as many who experienced something similar died in the battle. Aoba also mentioned to Kujaku that he was worried about Mizuki because he looked very bothered when he told him about several Ribstice groups being spirited away. The next morning, Aoba returned to work, apologizing to his boss for the other day.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But his boss informed him that he looked into the address of the owner of the package he lost, but he realized that person had no idea they were receiving a package, so apparently it was a prank by someone mischievous. He told Aoba not to worry about losing the package, as it doesn't matter anymore. Now alone, Aoba wondered why he was lured into the rhyme battle if the attacks were random like Kujaku had told him the other night. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a loud thud outside, and he ran out to check things out only to see a strange man lying face down on the floor. He got closer to examine the stranger, but he was taken aback when the stranger turned to face him, and he saw that it was the gas-masked man from the other day. To Aoba's surprise, the masked guy called him Master and introduced himself as Clear. Clear told him that he was the one who carried him back to mediocrity after he passed out following his rhyme battle. Feeling suspicious, Aoba asked him if he was the one who lured him into the rhyme field to fight, and Clear denies it, but tells him he heard his voice say, "Destruction and death." Suddenly, he grabbed Aoba by the cheeks and pulled them, while asking Aoba why he was acting so different from the master he knew. Aoba tried to pull off his mask, but Clear refused to give in, so Aoba kicked his behind aggressively, making Clear yell in pain. He ordered Clear to go home as he had work to do, and Clear obeyed. Elsewhere, we see Kujaku as he visited Mizuki to check up on him after Aoba mentioned that he was worried about him. Mizuki was glad to learn that Aoba was that concerned, and told Kujaku it is the virtual game rhyme that got him upset, but they both share a laugh as they talk about their business and change the topic. Back at mediocrity, Aoba gets visited by the young man who forced him to rhyme. Aoba had no idea who the young man was, as he walked in and silently reached out to grab an item behind Aoba. He purchased it and silently walked out of the shop without identifying himself, leaving Aoba too stunned to speak. On his way home from work that evening, he looked around the environment and saw several Ribstice groups hanging out, as well as other regular people struggling to survive and make ends meet. Aoba loved the way life was simple and wished for it to continue this way, but he was also worried about the possibility that things would change, and he would change alongside it. He arrived home towards nightfall and realized that the door was unlocked. He walked in and saw the young man who came by his shop earlier that afternoon, messing around with his system data.
The fuck you doing here, nigga?
He demanded an explanation, and the young man wondered why he couldn't remember him. He simply pulled out a rabbit keychain from his pocket and asked Aoba if it jogged his memory. Seeing the rabbit reminded Aoba of the man in a rabbit costume that forced them into rhyme a few days ago. Aoba asked if he was the one who sent a wrong delivery address, and the young man replied that it was simply a payback, as Aoba once did the same to get him into rhyme. Aoba couldn't remember doing so, which ticked off the young man as he slammed Aoba against the wall, telling him to fight him in rhyme again, but Aoba still looks confused. The young man threatened to destroy Aoba's loved ones if he fails to comply, and he grabs Ren. Aoba tried stopping him from harming Ren, but he grabbed Aoba's hand and pinned him to the wall, threatening once again to break his arm if he kept declining. Suddenly, Clear walked in via veranda into Aoba's room and told the young man to let go of his master. Few minutes later, Kujaku bursts in, asking Aoba what's going on and who the two intruders were. The young man called Kujaku a weak loser who carried a big sword around because he can't fight barehanded. Aoba begged Kujaku not to get provoked, but it's too late, as Kujaku got pissed off and hurled punches at the young man, but he dodged them and attacked back. The two kept going at it with each other, causing damage in Aoba's room in the process, so he got fed up and shouted at them to stop fighting. His grandma Tay walked in and scolds them for the noise as well. Eventually, they are all forced to sit down at the dinner table and eat freshly made snacks by Grandma Tay. At the table, Kujaku demanded that the young man introduce himself, but he refused, which caused friction between the two once again. Aoba saw his grandma. Tay was about to get mad, and intervened by introducing everyone, then asking the young man for his name. He called himself Noise, and Kujaku expressed his displeasure with his nasty attitude. Grandma Tay yells at them to go home once they were done eating. Aoba was curious about how Clear would eat with his gas mask on, but he showed them he could do it, leaving them surprised. After eating dinner together, Aoba saw everyone off at the door, but Kujaku stayed back, so he told him that Noise was the one who forced him into a rhyme battle. This got Kujaku pissed, and he remembered Noise to be the leader of a ribstays team called Rough Rabbits. Aoba further told him that Noise demanded a rematch, but he was not interested. This got Kujaku more angry, so Aoba changed the topic and asked why he visited. Kujaku explained that he visited Mizuki, and he was worried about him, so Aoba suggested that they visit him together next time. The following day, Aoba and Kujaku visited Mizuki to cheer him up, as he was depressed after losing more of his team members to rhyme. They all talked about Mizuki's tattoo drawing skills and how he had evolved as an artist. Kujaku praised Mizuki for being better at tattooing than he was when he first started, because he started off on a bad footing. Mizuki also praised Kujaku for being a pro at haircutting, but he also teased him for being a ladies' man who couldn't help himself. Feeling proud, Kujaku simply stated that the ladies just couldn't resist his charm, and he tries to be gentle with them. They are all having a wonderful time together as friends. Meanwhile, some members of Morphine are seen in alley doing something shady with spray paint. The next morning, Noise visits the junk shop again, and became the object of interest for the young siblings Kyo, Nao, and Mio, who thought that he was a regular customer. While Noise easily brushed off Kyo's and Nao's attempts to tackle him, he picked up Mio and kissed her palm.
Stop it. Get some help.
Telling her that girls shouldn't be rowdy, much to everyone's shock. After the kids ran out of the shop calling Noise a pervert, Aoba scolded him for his actions, but Noise took it with cool indifference, and abruptly kissed Aoba on the lips.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
Much to his embarrassment. Aoba asked Noise why he visited his shop again, and Noise invited him to join his rhyme team, Rough Rabbit, and to start playing rhyme again, but Aoba refused. Then he received a call from Yoshi, informing him that his grandma Tay hurt her back, and so he quickly rushed over to the hospital with his all-mate Ren. At the hospital, Yoshi told Aoba that nothing serious happened to Tay, and apologized to him for being dramatic about the whole situation, which got him worried. Aoba carried Tay home on his back that night, and on their way home, Grandma Tay grumbled about the way she was being treated like she was about to die, when she did not suffer any grave injury. Aoba told her that they were only worried about her, and went on to reminisce about the time she used to carry him on her back when he was little. Grandma Tay told him that he would usually run off when he was little, so he could be alone, and he started doing this after his parents died. As they arrived home, Aoba asked Tay if she needed anything else, but she told him she was fine, and shouted at him to go to bed. Aoba starts surfing the web in his room, as he searches for a comfortable chair to buy his grandma so she can relax her back. Later that same night, Grandma Tay secretly met with Tuei's assistant, Takahashi, outside the house, who mused over the fact that Aoba was still alive. Tay denied having any connections to Aoba and asked what Takahashi wants from her. Back inside the house, Aoba watched a live interview of the owner of the pleasure area, Platinum Jail, Tuei, and ridiculed the man's speech of perfect happiness, because he is a classist who wouldn't let people from the slums into his Platinum Jail. He turned off the television in annoyance and heard Grandma Tay come in from the front door. Surprised, he asked her why she was still up and not sleeping like he had thought, but she came up with a lie and said she went to take out trash, then heads back into her room. Meanwhile, Takahashi picked up his boss, Tuei, from the TV station, and on their way back to Platinum Jail, Tuei asked him how his meeting with Tay went, and he replied that Tay refused to help him once again, but Tuei was not surprised by this. As Aoba mused over his contentment for his current life and how the owner of Platinum Jail was being fake, he heard singing outside his window and stepped out to his veranda to check things out, only to find Clear on his rooftop.
Why are you like this?
He asked Clear what he was singing about, and Clear explained that the song he was singing is called the Jellyfish Song, which he made up himself and used to sing to his grandfather, who has died. Clear questioned Aoba about why humans lived the way they did when they were bound to die. So Aoba responds by saying that humans want to live their lives happily and leave proof of their existence before they die. Pleased that Aoba taught him something and liked his voice, Clear told Aoba that he would sing him a song as a form of appreciation for teaching him something new. Aoba didn't mind and requested Clear to sing him a lullaby since he has a good voice, and so Clear sang to him as he went to sleep. Elsewhere, we see that Morphine have left their mark on Dry Juice's territory, leaving Mizuki dismayed. At work the next day, Kujaku got informed by one of his teammates that Mizuki has gone missing, so he calls Aoba and tells him as well. Kujaku arrived at Dry Juice territory with his members to see that Dry Juice's tags had been painted over by Morphine's tags. Few minutes later, Aoba runs over to meet with them, and he is shocked to learn from Kujaku that Mizuki has disappeared, so they all join hands to search all around Midorajima for Mizuki. They searched everywhere in vain, so Aoba was left to wonder if Mizuki and his team were spirited away. Virus and Trip approached Aoba and expressed their surprise at seeing him at a rib territory. Aoba asked them if they have any information on the disappearance of Dry Juice members, but they claimed that they had no idea. Kujaku was irritated by their presence and asked Aoba why he was associating with the Yakuza, but Aoba explained that he became acquainted with Virus and Trip years ago before they joined the Yakuza. Virus and Trip tried to convince Kujaku that not all Yakuza are bad, but he was not having any of it and stood on business. They told Kujaku that the police and the Yakuza are no different from each other. Kujaku responded by telling them that he is friends with some policemen because not all are bad. In response to this, Virus and Trip called him a hypocrite for making friends with some of the policemen, and yet he judged all members of the Yakuza the same way. They took their leave, but promised to contact Aoba if they found any news about Dry Juice. Immediately they left. Noise showed up out of nowhere and grabbed Aoba by the hand from behind. He challenged Aoba to play rhyme once again, and this infuriates Kujaku, who called him a persistent bug. In return, Noise called Kujaku a good-for-nothing loser who carried around a scrap for a sword. The tension intensified between the two as they started another scuffle, and this time they were hell-bent on settling their issues with each other with their fists. Punches started getting thrown on both sides, but Akushima arrived with the police and interrupted their brawl. They all run off, and Aoba separates from Kujaku with plans of meeting later at his place. On his way back home, Aoba gets notified that he has an email, but upon checking he is surprised to see that he was getting spammed. He asked his all-mate, Ren, to analyze the contents of the emails he was receiving and check if it is a virus, but after running the analysis, Ren told him it's not a virus, but rather the download to a game. The game downloads on its own, and Aoba saw it's the same game he saw previously called Silent Oath, but this time it's about a kidnapped princess. It showed a character being taken away from the night. Aoba was still scrolling through the game's contents and called it stupid. While lost in thought, a guy walked past him and Aoba stopped him thinking it was Mizuki. Feeling despondent, he tried calling Grandma Tay, but she didn't pick up, so he ran back home. He arrived home and found out something was not right, so he looked around only to realize Grandma Tay was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, he discovered unconscious men with morphine tags on their necks in one of the rooms. Aoba felt the presence of someone close by and adjusted his eyes in the poorly lit room, only to see the scary-looking guy he bumped into a while back. His men called him Mink, so Aoba asked the guy what he was doing in his house, but to his surprise, more guys appeared from the shadows, and Aoba realized he was surrounded. Suddenly, the scary-looking guy knocked him out by punching him on the tummy. Aoba woke up in the hideout of another Ribstice group called Scratch, and quickly suffers a beating from Mink's men on his orders. He couldn't catch a break, as they all took turns in punching him like a punching bag. As Aoba struggled to break free, his other personality briefly took over and ordered the Scratch members to stop before falling unconscious. Moments later, he awakened safely in a bedroom and saw the all-mate belonging to Mink watching over him with a condescending look. He grabbed his bag to see if his all-mate, Ren, was safe. Mink walked in and told Aoba that he is aware of his dual personality, and he was contracted to capture him, but when he arrived at his house, they found another group there. He offered to help Aoba find Grandma Tay in exchange for his obedience, but Aoba was reluctant to agree. He grabbed Aoba and reminded him that the more time he wastes in making a decision, the more his grandma is in danger at the hands of the unknown kidnappers. Although reluctant, Aoba agreed, and they headed back to his house. Upon arrival, Aoba is greeted by Clear, who falls from the roof as usual, and Kujaku rushes out of the house looking worried. Kujaku was pissed to see Mink and is distrustful of Mink and his group because they are made up of criminals. Mink could care less about his thoughts concerning his group and ignores Kujaku, but he was so persistent, so Mink tells Kujaku that his group is no different from that of an ex-con.
Damn!
This got Kujaku more pissed off, but before he could react, Aoba tells him they have more important things to discuss. They all head inside, and Kujaku learned about Grandma Tay getting kidnapped, and he had no idea who could be responsible, but he tells Mink he suspected that his criminal group might be responsible. Mink informed them that he has an idea where Grandma Tay was taken, but he needs everyone's cooperation. His all-mate flew inside the house and brought out a strange cube-shaped device which happened to be a transmitter relaying their conversation to someone outside. Aoba recognized it to be Noise's all-mate, and apparently it was planted in his house to spy on him. Mink saw this as an opportunity and advised Aoba to call Noise over to the house through the transmitter they found, as it would be of great help to have such a person skilled at gathering information to assist them in the case. Aoba called on Noise to come around and assist them, and promised to play rhyme as he always wanted. Moments later, Noise arrived at the house, much to Kujaku's chagrin. He began working on gathering information that would point them to where Grandma Tay was taken. Clear assisted them with a map he just sketched to make it easier for Noise to pinpoint the location where Grandma Tay was taken. Aoba asked Clear how he knew the area so well and what he was doing roaming around an area that was closed off. Clear simply told them that he just normally went for a stroll there. Noise verified the map Clear drew for them to be certain that it corresponds, and it turned out to be a match which shows them that what they're looking for is an abandoned warehouse. They arrive at a junk site, and Mink tells Aoba to turn off his all-mate as the signal he emits can easily be traced back to them running their element of surprise. Clear acted as their guide to the abandoned warehouse since he was familiar with the area. Aoba observed that the junk site was similar to the Silent Oath game he downloaded earlier, and apparently his Grandma Tay is the kidnapped princess, according to the game. Noise pointed out that they would be moving towards the garbage disposal site, as there is an entrance there. They all moved towards the garbage disposal site, and Noise told them to move along as he will support them. Like a professional hacker, he hacked into the building system and successfully opened the front door for them to enter, and Aoba rushed in first, only to be enveloped by darkness, and suddenly he saw several hooded men. They are attacked by these hooded men, and while fighting, Aoba recognizes one of the men from Dry Juice. Apparently, these were all the members of Dry Juice who had disappeared, and they all look zombified. Noise closed a door where more of the Dry Juice guys were coming through and instructed them to head to the parking lot as he was opening a gate there, so they all hurried to the parking lot. On their way to the parking lot, they got separated, and we see Aoba and Clear trying to get away from hooded men that were chasing them. Clear tries to hold them off, and Mink joins later. They tell Aoba to run along before the gate closes, so he rushes out. He spotted his Grandma Tay being taken into a minivan by some of the hooded men and shouts at them to stop. To his utter shock, one of the men revealed himself to be Mizuki, looking all crazy. With a sinister look on his face, he told Aoba that his team, Dry Juice, joined Morphine, and together they will be strong and absolute. He went on to ask Aoba to join his group, but Aoba told him to wake up to reality, as that was not going to happen, because the Mizuki he knew is not someone that would do such things. Convinced that Aoba was not taking him seriously, Mizuki held Grandma Tay at knife point and threatened to cut her throat if Aoba refuses to join his group. He reminds Aoba to think properly about his choice, as he knew how much he loved his grandma. Seeing the knife so close to his grandma's throat, Aoba was distressed, and he begged Mizuki to stop, but he brought the knife so close that he drew blood. Seeing this threw Aoba off the edge as his persona changed once again, and he shouted at Mizuki to stop, which suddenly pulls him into Mizuki's mind, and he saw his fears of ribsties being overshadowed by rhyme. Aoba was feeling suffocated by Mizuki's fears, and wondered what was happening. Suddenly, he saw the real Mizuki pass by and rushed after him. He met up with him, and Mizuki revealed to him that he was so afraid of ribsties being overshadowed by rhyme that he turned to morphine for help after they offered it. He agreed to join with morphine in order to preserve dry juice, but it turned out that they were betrayed and double-crossed, as his group members were beaten and dragged away, then forcefully turned into mindless puppets. Aoba's other persona surfaces again and urges Aoba to destroy, causing Mizuki to mentally break down in the real world. As Mizuki broke down, Aoba is pulled into a rhyme field, and he is surprised to see Tue, the owner of Platinum Jail, who he saw on TV, there with him. Tue addressed Aoba with so much familiarity, but Aoba was baffled and wondered what he was talking about. Tue encouraged him to discover who he truly is before disappearing, and Aoba is back to reality. He awakened in the real world, and the first person he sees is his grandma, Tae. She assured him that she is all right because of him. Aoba asks about Mizuki, and she points at an unconscious Mizuki. Aoba looked concerned, especially after recalling how Mizuki begged him to save him, but quickly he collapses again. At Oval Tower, Takahashi asked Tue how his brief meeting with Aoba went. He replied that Aoba's powers activates when he is emotionally distressed. Takahashi goes ahead to report to Tue about the data they received on Aoba's powers, and that he had sent the police to apprehend him for them. Later we see Aoba is now conscious, so he headed downstairs and saw everyone already gathered at the dining table. He met his grandma, Tae, who was busy with the dishes, and asked her about Mizuki, and she informs him that Mizuki, alongside the rest of Dry Juice, were taken to a hospital, but all of them are still in a comatose state. Aoba volunteered to help her do the dishes, but he gets a headache, and so Tae tells him to take his medicine and sit down to eat if he is hungry. They all sit together, and Aoba asked Tae why Mizuki kidnapped her, so she decides to tell them the whole truth of how everything all started. Tae told them that Mizuki was controlled by someone to kidnap her, and that Morphine is responsible for it, but she suspects that there is someone pulling the strings behind Morphine who is Tue Concern. Aoba asked Tae what Morphine wanted from her, and she revealed to them that she worked as a lab researcher in Tue's lab 20 years ago. According to Tae, she worked on brains, neuroplasticity to be precise, and she faithfully did her job thinking she was helping humanity. But after digging deep into the secrets Tue was hiding, she realized they were harming humans in the lab. Immediately after realizing the real truth, she quit the lab research work and moved to the island to live peacefully away from Tue and his evil brainwashing experiments. However, Tae also mentioned that she was approached recently by Tue's representatives as they wanted her back in the lab, but she declined their offer. She further told them that Morphine was sent to get her through Mizuki since she was being stubborn. Aoba was curious about how they got Mizuki to do their dirty work, and Tae explained that Dry Juice was definitely brainwashed by Tue to do his dirty work. She reminded the boys about the random disappearances of people in the island, and how they'll be found later looking high on something. She explained that these people were victims of Tue's brainwashing, and their failed experiments who turned out to be invalids because their minds were broken. Everyone were disgusted on hearing this, and Aoba asked why Tue kept doing such horrible experiments on humans. Tae told him that Tue wishes to create a kingdom of humans he can control however he wishes. Back at Oval Tower, Takahashi informed Tue that preparations had been made for the next special anniversary event and asked if they would be extending an invitation to Aoba, and Tue simply smiled. Meanwhile, Aoba is visibly repulsed by all he heard from Grandma Tae, and he is determined to put a stop to Tue's evil deeds. Kujaku supports him and suggests they raid Platinum Jail, but Grandma Tae suggested that they all get some rest after the long conversation and apologize to everyone for involving them in such a mess. Aoba saw Kujaku and the others out the door and returned back inside to Tae, telling him that she wants to discuss something important with him. Aoba understood that Tay sent everyone else home so she could have this moment. She told him that he possessed an ability called Scrap that allows him to put his consciousness into the minds of others with his voice, and depending on how he uses it, he can control or destroy them. Aoba remembered doing something similar with Mizuki's consciousness. To Aoba's shock, Grandma Tay told him that the reason why Mizuki is still comatose is because of him.
What do you mean by that?
Elsewhere, we see Kujaku confronting Mink as he demanded that Mink tell him what he wants from Aoba and his intentions towards him. But Mink still carried himself with confidence and called Kujaku an ignorant fool who knew nothing about his friend, Aoba. Back at Aoba's house, Grandma Tay explained to him that he walked into Mizuki's consciousness and walked out, leaving him as an empty shell, which is why he is still comatose. She made it clear to Aoba that she has always been like a cage, protecting him, but she had to tell him the truth someday so his powers won't go berserk and cause a catastrophe. She also reminded him that Tue envies his powers because he can do what he has failed to do with countless experiments. Aoba came to realize that all Tue wanted was him, and he was the reason why his grandma was kidnapped and Mizuki ended up in a poor condition. Grandma Tay went on to reveal to him that he once loved playing rhyme, and he had an accident during one of the rhyme games which led to his memory loss. So she gave him pills to keep his consciousness stable so his powers don't go berserk, but over time the pills stopped working as his powers are resisting its effects due to being suppressed for so long. She also told Aoba that the root of his power is destruction, but everything depends on him and how he chooses to use his powers. Aoba asked his grandma why he had such powers, but their conversation was interrupted by a call from Virus, who warned Aoba that the police are on their way to his house and advised him to be careful. Immediately after the call, Aoba gets an email from the game Silent Oath, and it opens up to an invitation from Tui to Platinum Jail, which left him confused. Aoba prepared to head over to Platinum Jail and got a call from Kujaku, who asked what's going on, but the police suddenly arrived.
My time has come.
So Aoba abruptly ended the call and ran out of the house through his room veranda. His all-mate, Ren, gave him directions to an area not blocked by the police so he could flee. On the other hand, Kujaku also received an invitation to Platinum Jail, so he ran off to meet up with Aoba. We are taken back to the past, and we see Aoba crying at the playground, and Kujaku cheers him up while encouraging him never to lose in life. Back to the present, Aoba and Kujaku met each other at the entrance of Platinum Jail, and Kujaku scolded Aoba for going off on his own. Aoba tried to defend himself, but an eerie-looking mascot appeared out of nowhere and asks for their invitation before they could enter Platinum Jail. Kujaku shows the mascot his invitation, which surprised Aoba that he got one too. The heavy door opened, and they both walked inside. Once they entered Platinum Jail, they are both astonished by how flashy everywhere was, and suddenly, Tue makes a live announcement that a special event will be held for Platinum Jail's 10th anniversary. Fireworks are released into the sky, and Aoba notices the crowd's dazed expressions before the announcement is concluded, and wonders if this was the brainwashing experiment his grandma talked about. Seeing that Kujaku was getting brainwashed as well,
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
he grabbed him so they could go somewhere else. While shaking off the awful feeling he had from watching the fireworks, Kujaku spots a man, Ryuho, entering a club, and anxiously chased after him with Aoba following behind. While looking for Kujaku in the crowd, Aoba started feeling dizzy from the club's drug lights. Ren tells him not to push himself too hard as the club lights were interfering with his peripheral system. Aoba falls, but Ryuho caught him. He looked up, but he eventually collapsed on Ryuho. When Aoba regained his consciousness, he realized he was in Ryuho's room, and Ryuho reveals to him that he is a tattoo artist like his friend Mizuki, and he saw Aoba once before and could sense that he was different from others.
Yeah, boy.
Ryuho expressed his intentions to forcefully tattoo Aoba's back in order to draw out his life force and see what flowers would bloom from him. Aoba is terrified and helpless, but a furious Kujaku intervened just as Ryuho was about to stick his tool in Aoba's skin. Ryuho excitedly greeted Kujaku, calling him his greatest work, but an incomplete masterpiece, and this pissed off Kujaku, who told him to shut up. Ryuho provoked him further by mentioning Kujaku's past and how he killed his mother. Infuriated, Kujaku takes off his cloth and unsheathes his sword, ready to cut Ryuho down. Aoba is surprised to see the tattoos on Kujaku growing and glowing. Ryuho laughs maliciously and reminds Kujaku that the more he gives in to his anger, the more the tattoos grow and devour his heart. Kujaku attacked Ryuho and cut him, but he smiled and said that his masterpiece is now complete. Kujaku's eyes glowed red with rage, and he turned into a rabid animal. He went wild and started attacking anything in his way, even Aoba. Aoba calls on him to stop, but it seemed like his sense of reasoning was far gone as he kept screaming like a wild beast. Suddenly, Aoba gets told by his other persona that the only way to save Kujaku is to use the power of scrap. Determined to save his friend this time, and not mess up like he did with Mizuki, Aoba walked into Kujaku's mind. Aoba entered Kujaku's mind and heard him crying in pain at a distance, so he ran towards him, but he is being chased by moving black ink, which stings when they touch him. He ran past several doors before finally reaching the room where Kujaku was lying in. He saw Kujaku on the floor, covered in little bloodstains and crying. Suddenly, his mom walked into the room and fell to her knees. Aoba was confused about what was happening and wondered what kind of past Kujaku had. The moving black ink enveloped Kujaku, causing him to cry in agony as they stung so badly. Aoba rushed over to tear them off him with his hands, but as he placed his palm on Kujaku's back, blood rushed out and formed an image of Ryuho, who tells Aoba to get away from his creation, as Kujaku belonged to him, but Aoba doesn't give up. Kujaku's real consciousness appeared to Aoba and narrated to him how everything all began. He told Aoba that he and his mother were brought in to live with his father because his first wife couldn't bear children. Ryuho was ordered by his father to draw some tattoos on him as part of tradition for the next head of house, but the pain from the tattoo was so unbearable for him that he passed out during the process. However, when he woke up, he found himself surrounded by blood, and his mother was dead as well. He was so filled with guilt that he even tried to end his own life, but he came back to Midorijima Island in hopes that seeing Aoba again would make him feel better, but it did not, as the tattoos were still a part of him, and always reminded him that he belongs to Ryuho. Aoba told him not to ever give up on life because he has those who still love him and are waiting for him. He also told Kujaku that no matter what he has done in his past, he knows the real Kujaku and still believed in him, so he encouraged Kujaku not to lose to his tattoos and his past. With a smile on his face, Aoba told Kujaku that he would destroy his past, which is keeping him bound. Aoba woke up to see everywhere burning, and Kujaku grabbed him, telling him they were getting out together. Elsewhere, we see Ryuho deliver a message back to Oval Tower, informing Toei that his experiment was a success before finally collapsing from his injuries. Aoba and Kujaku are lodged in a room, so Kujaku apologized to him for getting him involved in his mess, but Aoba reminded him that he also got him involved in his mess too. They both reminisced on old times when they were still kids, and Aoba tells Kujaku he would always be his hero.
Ha! Gay!
Later that night, Aoba woke up to a nightmare of his scary persona, telling him to acknowledge the truth about himself. He looked around the room for his all-mate, Ren, but couldn't find him, so he went out searching for him. While searching for Ren, Aoba finds Noise in the living room, tinkering on Ren. Furious, Aoba took Ren away from Noise aggressively, causing Noise to accidentally scratch himself with a screwdriver. Noise assured him that he was not causing any harm to Ren, and told Aoba that he was being too sentimental over an all-mate. Aoba noticed the injury and apologized for hurting Noise, so he grabbed the first aid box to treat his injury. Noise was hesitant, but Aoba insisted on treating his injury. While treating the wound, Aoba received another download of Silent Oath, and he told Noise that things that happen in the game always happens in reality, so Noise attempted to trace the source to the sender, but to no avail. Ioba inquired what Noise was doing in Platinum Jail, prompting Noise to show him the invitation letter he received, and he mentioned that he could have gotten in without the invitation. Back at the Oval Tower, Tue is pleased that Ryuho's tattoo experiment was a success, and they have new data on Aoba, but he emphasizes on the need for them to awaken Aoba's other persona completely. Meanwhile, Aoba asked Ren what Noise was doing to him, and Ren informed him that Noise simply removed a worm from his system, which made Aoba feel bad for overreacting earlier. The next morning, Aoba woke up to the city still being as vibrant as ever, and wondered if that is how it is all the time. He headed downstairs and gave Noise coffee to drink while he apologized for his behavior the other day, but Noise said he didn't care. He tried to drink the coffee and ended up spilling it, soiling his bandage and burning his hand. Aoba told him to take off the bandage immediately, and after he did this, Aoba was surprised to see the scars on his hand and questioned Noise, but he ignores. While changing his bandage, Aoba thanked Noise for overhauling Ren after finding worm in his system, but Noise told him he is too nice and naive, and revealed that he only looked into his all-mate to see if he was the reason why he beat him during the rhyme battle, and he only decided to remove the worm after seeing it. He leaned closer to Aoba and asked why he was nice to him, which made Aoba nervous. Before Aoba could respond, Noise asked him if he was hungry and took off to shop for food, so he followed him. Noise bought several snacks while Aoba did the carrying and asked him how he is buying so much.
This is business!
So Noise explained that he makes a lot of money from selling rhyme information to players. They both stay at a corner to discuss, and Aoba told Noise how he lost his memory after his last rhyme battle. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by a group of guys on hoodies who were looking like mindless zombies. Aoba was not interested in fighting, so he suggested they run, but to his surprise, Noise was already jumping in and punching away at the guys. Aoba sees that their attackers had morphine tattoos, and one of the guys tries to attack him from behind with a knife, but he dodged it. Noise kept fighting, but Aoba sees that he is getting overwhelmed by the enemy's numbers, and he was injured. Aoba's other persona tells him to break and destroy his enemies, but he shouts that they should stop, and everyone froze instantly. He saw Noise looking unfazed, despite bleeding badly, and asked if he doesn't feel pain, so Noise explained that his other senses are dull except for taste. Aoba volunteered to treat his wounds, but Noise told him it was pointless, prompting Aoba to scold him. However, a mysterious guy in a mask grabs Noise's attention, so he chased after him while Aoba followed. Noise met up with the mysterious guy, but he felt a strange sensation after coming face to face with him, and his pupils dilated.
What do you mean by that?
Aoba finally caught up, but he saw that Noise was acting weird, and suddenly he got attacked by him with several punches to his gut. Seeing Noise's eyes reminded Aoba of Mizuki, so he decided to walk into his mind and help him. Aoba got into Noise's mind and saw a memory of his parents calling him a good-for-nothing child who has brought nothing but disgrace to the clan.
Oh my god! Even though they were... Oh my god!
He tried to get close, but some phantom-looking entities blocked him, and as they passed through his hand, he noticed it got all shriveled up. He saw Noise bound in chains and lying on the floor, and took everything as a test, so he walked past the entities and got closer to Noise. He carried Noise up, but Noise told him he wished to live alone, so no one can be disappointed in him, but Aoba told him he doesn't need to be alone anymore. Noise revealed to Aoba that loves playing rhyme because that's the only place where he can feel pain, so he doesn't think he is a monster. Aoba called him a hypocrite, and tells him that if he wants to feel pain so much, then that means he also wants to interact with other people, so he doesn't end up alone. Aoba told Noise that he will not only play more rhyme games with him, but he would be there for him, so he knows he is not alone.
Attention! I am gay!
Why are you gay?
Which causes the chains on Noise to break. He also told him he would destroy the world holding him bondage, and so it all shatters, setting Noise free. Aoba woke up on top of Noise, and eventually Noise woke up too, so they both supported each other and walked back to their lodging. Aoba and an injured Noise were slowly making their way back to their lodging, but they got ambushed by more morphine members. However, Clear appeared and easily beats them all up as he wants to protect his master. One of the men tried to hurt Aoba, but Clear violently beats him up till Aoba stops him, allowing the morphine member the chance to throw acid on Clear and escape. At their lodging, Clear refused to remove his mask in front of Aoba in the bathroom. Aoba asked why he is still being stubborn when there's a possibility that the acid on the mask could hurt him. Clear explained to Aoba that his grandfather told him never to show his face to anybody because it wasn't normal like other humans, and he is afraid that if Aoba saw how hideous he looked, he would hate him. Aoba is surprised that Clear has never even seen his own face, and assures him that he could never hate him even if he looked like a dungeon troll. He eventually took off the mask, revealing Clear's normal-looking face. Clear is anxious and asks him if he looked normal, or like a dungeon troll with incomplete facial features, but Aoba smiled and told him that everything was complete and perfect. Afterwards, Clear cooked for Aoba, and he compliments his cooking, but while he was eating, a strange music played on the TV, which caused Aoba immense pain, so Clear turned off the TV and got Aoba to rest. He explained to Aoba that what he just listened to was die music, which is a song used in brainwashing people. Aoba believes Taue must be responsible for this, and Clear agreed. He also revealed to Aoba that normal people would have been brainwashed instantly after hearing even a snippet of the song, but Aoba is unique because of the voice he carries inside of him. Aoba was curious as to how Clear knew so much, and he simply told him his grandfather told him. He asked him who his grandfather was, but Clear had no idea. Clear told Aoba to get some rest and sang him a lullaby to sleep. While Aoba slept, he questioned Ren on why he doesn't call Aoba master, even though he is just an all-mate, with Ren saying he is only doing what Aoba wants from him. Clear was still confused, but Aoba suddenly woke up and told him that it was all based on taste and left for him he doesn't want anyone calling him master. While Kujaku and Noise rested from their injuries, Aoba and Clear went out to see the Oval Tower. Aoba told Clear that he took them to the wrong Oval Tower, so they headed to the right one, and on their way, they're blocked by two identical mysterious guys covered in masks. To Aoba's surprise, they took off their masks and revealed their faces to be similar to that of Clear's. Clear told Aoba to stay behind so he can handle his two lookalikes. The two lookalikes called Clear Oni-chan, and they're repulsed that he was calling Aoba master when Tue is their only master. They are convinced that Clear is corrupted and should be disposed of immediately, so they attack. Clear could only defend and dodge, but when he tried attacking, he froze, because they were designed not to attack Tue or each other. But Clear's lookalikes revealed to them that Tue rewrote their mechanism so they can be able to destroy Clear, which is why they can attack Clear, but he can't do the same. Aoba was worried about Clear as he was getting beat up, and each time he tried fighting back, his circuit gets fried. Suddenly, they turned their attention to Aoba and started singing the die music to brainwash him, which puts Aoba in so much pain that Clear attacks them, but it led to his whole circuits getting fried, and he started breaking. While his brothers laughed, Aoba carefully held Clear as they went somewhere secluded. Now, in a secluded corner, Clear tells Aoba that he had always called him master because of his voice, as it was similar to that of Tue and his brothers, since they can control the minds of humans. He also mentioned that his grandfather probably made him hide his face so he wouldn't see his brothers and be reminded of his true nature. He goes on to express sadness that despite trying to live very normal with his grandfather and with Aoba, he has been reminded once again about his true nature, but he tells Aoba that he would never hurt him. Aoba hugged Clear and assured him that he knew he would never hurt him. They both stepped out once again, but it's raining, and Clear tried to cover Aoba and told him he could get sick from getting wet. Aoba smiled at Clear's compassion, despite his present condition. However, his brothers showed up once more and mocked Clear for looking pathetic because he tried to imitate human nature, despite knowing he is a machine. Clear shot back at them and told them they are more pathetic because they may look like humans, but they would never get to experience the joy of being human, which he has experienced. His brothers laughed at him, but Clear insisted that he wants to be human because he has the free will to do things like calling Aoba his master. His brothers responded by calling him a fool for calling an incomplete being his master when they have a perfect being like Taue as their master. As they got closer, Clear reminds Aoba that he promised to protect him as his master. To their surprise, Clear brought out a knife and stabbed himself through the head, and then he started singing, which made his brothers feel immense pain in their heads as they cried for him to stop singing. Eventually, they all fell, and a worn-out Clear revealed to Aoba that he sang at maximum output to overpower their processing ability, which was enough to take them down. Aoba held Clear as it seemed to be his final moments. Clear appreciated him for being his master and teaching him new things, and for his final request, he asked Aoba if he can call him by his real name. Aoba agreed, and Clear called him Aoba-san, and those were his last words. Back at their lodging, Aoba spaced out while getting some water as he thought about the past events that have taken place in his life. Noaz called out to him and snapped him out of his trance, asking him why he suddenly spaced out, but Aoba was unable to reply. He asked Noise how Clear's condition was, and Noise told him that he only performed emergency repairs on him, but they would have to properly fix him later. Aoba recounted all the incidents that have happened so far since they got to Platinum Jail, and told Noise that the invitation was a trap. Noise tells Aoba that he knew the invitation was a trap, but he still came. Aoba expressed his sadness over dragging them into so many problems, but Kujaku came in and told him to stop beating himself up, as they don't regret supporting him. Noise also pointed out to Aoba that although Taue is after him, he was also after something else. Noise mentioned that when they were surrounded by Morphine's guys, they suddenly froze after Aoba ordered them to stop, and also when Aoba entered him with his voice, he felt a certain type of way. Aoba admitted to them that he has an ability called Scrap, which lets his consciousness invade the minds of those he wants. He also told them that since they got to Platinum Jail, he found out that Tue had been brainwashing people and reminded them of the different scenarios where it happened. He also revealed that Taue wants to use his powers to brainwash more people, and he planned to do so during the special anniversary celebration, which he wants to stop. However, Aoba told Noise and Kujaku that it would be dangerous to follow him, but Kujaku was not backing down and told Aoba not to face the battle alone. At the Oval Tower, we see Takahashi and Tue finalizing on their preparations for the special anniversary coming in 2 days as they plan to brainwash the entire island. Later that night, Mink called Aoba, reminds him that he owes him a favor, and so the two plan to break into Oval Tower by themselves. Mink handed Aoba an USB flash drive to put into Ren with a program that would disable the security all-mates patrolling the building. Aoba vehemently refused to use it as it could possibly destroy Ren, prompting Mink to beat him up and call him naive as he was being too sentimental over an all-mate when they have pressing matters to attend to. His all-mate, Ren, assured him that he is okay with the plan, and if he gets broken from it, he can fix him later. Aoba and Mink successfully infiltrated Oval Tower's control room and uploaded the program to its system, and although Ren appeared to be fine, Aoba noticed he was acting strange. Mink instructs them to go as two could be on the top floor. As the elevator moved to the top floor, they suddenly stopped, and the door opened to Akushima, waiting for them with guns ready to fire. Mink told Aoba to stay close to him and keep up, then he threw a smoke bomb immediately. They use the smoke cover to escape Akushima, while Mink covers their back. They found a spot to hide as Akushima and more security operatives looked for them. Mink handed Aoba a gun and told him to defend himself, but Aoba didn't take it. Mink grew impatient and told Aoba to get himself together and use his powers so they don't die. Aoba was still hesitant, so Mink grabbed him by the collar and shouted at him, drawing the attention of Akushima and other security operatives. To their surprise, Aoba stepped out looking different and ordered everyone to leave. Tu watched everything from a security camera and saw how everyone left at Aoba's command. Aoba's other persona turned to Mink and asked him what his goal was as he dragged him out to use him as a tool. Mink refused to speak, so Aoba told him that he would expose him, and so he invaded his mind. Now, in Mink's mind, Aoba returned to his usual self and saw that he was looking at one of Mink's tragic memories. Apparently, Tao burnt down Mink's homeland in search of a secret art they use which involved using scent to control the minds of others. Aoba searched around for Mink and saw chains hanging around him. He heard a voice telling him to stay away, and followed it, which led him to a room where Mink was heavily chained down to a chair. Aoba tried to set Mink free, but he saw that Mink had purposely chained himself up. He asked Mink why he would do that to himself, and tried to set him free once more, but as he touched the chain, it stung his hands, and so he realized that Mink was rejecting his help. Back to reality, Aoba woke up to Mink asking him how long he would be lying on the floor. Aoba asked him if he wanted to die, but Mink simply told him that he has the same scent like him, which is the scent of death, and walked away. Meanwhile, Tu makes a live residence of Platinum Jail in regards to their upcoming special anniversary, and introduced Sei to them as his son. He told them that he would bring them happiness and asked that they give Sei their blessings. Hearing Aoba tell him not to die, Mink turned and told Aoba he had changed his mind about letting him follow him and he can stay behind, but Aoba insisted on still following him. As they ventured higher up into Oval Tower, Aoba spots specks of light fluttering on Ren's face, but Ren turned away immediately, so Aoba doesn't get a closer look at his eye. Aoba insisted that Ren show him his face, but Ren was defiant and told him it wasn't the time to be bothered over such things. Aoba told Ren that it would be bad for him if he breaks down, so Ren promised to do his best not to hold him back, because if he couldn't properly do his job as an all-mate, he was nothing but garbage. Aoba is shocked by these responses and tells Ren he didn't mean it that way. They both went back and forth till Mink interrupts, asking if there was a problem. Mink successfully hacked his way into a room, and they discovered the various experiments that Tue had been conducting, as well as those he wished to use on the special anniversary event day. Mink reminded Aoba that he said he would put an end to the event and made it clear that they would not only destroy the event, but all experiments as well, and he would kill Tue. On their way to the top floor, Aoba and Mink got separated while escaping the guards. Aoba encountered a holographic Sei, who is pleased to finally meet him. Aoba was confused and asked Sei who he was and how he got to know his name. Sei explained to the bewildered Aoba that he was the one who sent demos of Silent Oath and the invitation to Platinum Jail, guiding him to Oval Tower so he could break him with his power. Seeing this, Aoba got furious, thinking that Sei was the one who lured him and his friends into a trap with the invitation. But Sei tells him that he did not do such a thing. He told Aoba he only wanted him to come to him so he can break him with his power, because he is the only one who could put an end to his misery. Aoba asked Sei what he meant, but Sei told him that his powers were at its limit and encouraged Aoba to hurry and come to him before his hologram disappeared. Suddenly, Aoba is captured by morphine, and he woke up all tied up to a chair to see Virus and Trip. Aoba is shocked to learn that Virus and Trip are the leaders of the morphine group. Aoba got pissed on realizing that they tricked him all this while. Trip told Aoba that he loved the expression on his face, as the last time he saw such an expression was when Aoba destroyed someone during a rhyme battle using his scrap powers. They also revealed to him that they are the ones that erased his memories of how he destroyed someone during rhyme using the powers of Tau, so no other person would get to know about his special powers, as they wanted to keep him all to themselves, even away from Toei himself. And because his grandmother was also trying to keep his powers hidden, it made their mission less difficult to achieve. Virus told Aoba that Toei only found him after he was randomly attacked in rhyme, otherwise they wouldn't have given him away. They told Aoba that they will be taking him to see Sei, which left him wondering, so they also revealed to him that Sei is his older twin brother. They went on to further reveal to Aoba that he, alongside his older brother, Sei, were designer babies created by Tue using Tai's research, and they were born in such a way that their hair were connected to each other. However, Aoba was born dead and taken away by Tei to protect him from Tue's experiments, but was revived later on. Since Sei also has the power of scrap in his eyes, he was kept as a lab rat by Tue, and due to the countless experiments performed on him, he is now at his limit and is on the verge of death. They also told Aoba that Tue was able to artificially replicate the power of Sei's eyes with a special light, so he wouldn't need Sei any longer, and that Day's special anniversary event would be the last time Sei would use his powers. However, they assured Aoba that they had no more use for Sei now that they have him, so Tue can continue his experiments on him. Mink, Kujaku, Noise, and Clear arrive and rescue Aoba from morphine, but unfortunately Virus and Trip escaped before they could catch them. Aoba searched for Ren and found him, but he observed that the light was still fluttering in his eyes. Noise informed him that Ren is infected by a worm. Aoba and Mink press forward to stop Toei, while Kujaku and the others fought off the guards to stop them from getting in Aoba's way. Noise overrode the robot's system and used them to fight against the security operatives. Aoba and Mink rushed into a white room and found Toei standing there alone. He welcomed Aoba but asked Mink who he was, prompting him to show him a crystal, but Toei told him he was joking as he knew who he was. He told Mink that his people were stubborn to share their secret art with him, which led to their death when everything could have been easily avoided. Mink told him that he was going to die by his hands, and so Toei replied that it would not be possible since he has the same power as Aoba, although he acquired it artificially. He attempted to use Scrap on Mink to stop his plans, but to his surprise, Mink fell to the ground at first in pain, but then he laughed it off. He told too that Aoba had already implanted his words into his mind with Scrap earlier, even though he might not be aware of it. He also told too that his attempt to use Scrap failed, because unlike his fake powers, Aoba's powers are real, and he felt it. Mink grabbed his gun and fired it too, but they realized that it was just his hologram. He ordered Aoba to turn back while he ran off to find the real Toei and end things once and for all. Meanwhile, Aoba checked his bag and saw Ren becoming more hostile because of the worm. He reached out to pet Ren, but he bit him, causing something to flow into him. Aoba realized that the memories flowing into him belonged to Ren and decided to use his Scrap powers on himself so he would be able to save Ren. He saw that Ren was falling apart due to the worm as he tried to attack him. Ren revealed he was originally a part of Aoba's consciousness, his restraint that was created to monitor his desire, which is the other Aoba, so that it wouldn't take control of him. However, there was a period of time when Aoba's desire took hold of him, and Ren could no longer influence him from inside his mind, prompting him to transfer his consciousness into the All-Mate's dog body when Aoba discovered it. As a physical being, Ren said was able to influence Aoba more easily, but because of Virus and Trip tampering with Aoba's memory in the past, he had forgotten his original purpose until the worm infected him. Ren expresses the pain and inferiority he felt during his time as an All-Mate, and tells Aoba that he feared that he would abandon him as he was an older All-Mate model, since newer models were coming out. He also told Aoba that his wish was to be with him forever, but since he couldn't fulfill his duties as his restraint, he wishes to disappear. Aoba told Ren that he understood his feelings, but he was wrong to think he would let him disappear. He further told Ren that if he stayed inside of him long enough, he should know him better enough to see that he could care less about a new version of an All-Mate. He told Ren that he intentionally picked him, despite being an older version, because he was precious to him, and so precious that he doesn't mind fixing him anytime he got broken. However, Ren told Aoba that he cannot keep existing because he is unable to balance his heart, but rather, he kept it in disarray. Aoba replied that he still needed him, but Ren told him that he would be the only one disappearing as the All-Mate would still remain functional, but Aoba told him that he doesn't need an All-Mate but him and placed his head on his chest. Once again, Aoba begged him to remain by his side as he didn't wish for him to disappear. Aoba woke up moments later to see that using Scrap on himself worked as Ren was back to normal. He got a text from Toei telling him where to meet with him, and so he goes there. He arrived at what looked like a reception hall, and Toei thanked him for coming. He bluntly told Aoba that he wants his power and asked him to join his side, but Aoba refused. Tu sets up a rhyme field and told Aoba that the rules were simple, and it is that if he won, Aoba would obey him and do anything he says. Ren warns Aoba that all limiters have been turned off, and Usui is Tue's All-Mate. Taking a closer look at Usui, Aoba realized that she was modeled after his older twin brother, Sei. Toei narrates to Aoba how his older brother was raised in a lab and had never been to the outside world, so he learnt to transfer his consciousness in various ways so he could be able to move around, and he is grateful to Sei because his last contact with Aoba worked in his favor. The rhyme battle began with USUI firing off several beams at Aoba and his All-Mate Ren. They dodged and counterattacked, but her defenses were solid. Aoba asked Toei what he was after, and he replied that he wants his own nation, but he will start off by taking control over Midorijima so he can give the people true happiness. Aoba told him that he can't grant happiness by controlling the minds of everyone. USUI fired more beams at Aoba and Ren, but they blocked it. However, Ren's shield cannot hold out for one more attack like that, so Ren suggested that Aoba tries reaching out to Sei through USUI, since they were possibly connected to each other. Aoba tried calling out to Sei telepathically, but it didn't work the first time. He tried again, and USUI reacted, and the third time, USUI screamed, redirecting her attacks to herself, resulting in the destruction of the rhyme field. Tu fell to his knees in utter defeat and acknowledged that he was the loser, so he tells Aoba to move ahead to the next room as Sei is waiting there, which Aoba did. After Aoba left, Tue grabbed his gun, pointed it to his head, and shot. Aoba saw Sei seated down in a room full of toys and called out to him. Sei used his scrap power and walked into Aoba's mind, telling him he had been waiting to see him for a long time so he could be destroyed by him. Aoba felt bad about this and asked Sei why they couldn't leave Oval Tower together. But Sei told him he would have loved to, but his heart was failing and would not hold out for long. He thanked Ren for always looking out for his young brother and told Aoba that there was one more person he had to accept, and that was his other persona. He assured Aoba that this persona doesn't wish to hurt him, and accepting him inside would be beneficial. He also told Aoba that he doesn't hate Tue despite all that he did to him, but he would destroy everything. Finally, he begged Aoba to destroy him as he was running out of time. Aoba was hesitant, but eventually decided to do as he was asked. As Sei disappeared, he thanked Aoba for setting him free from his cage. As his final duty, Sei overrode the entire system in Platinum Jail and triggered an explosion in the Oval Tower. Meanwhile, Aoba came to understand his other personality and fully accepted him inside as part of him. Suddenly, a bike got thrown towards him, and he saw it was from Mink's Allmate, who tells him to get on it and escape as the city is crumbling. Aoba drove off instantly, but turned to see his brother one last time. All citizens of Platinum Jail received an evacuation notice, so everyone is hurrying out. Kujaku and the others are looking for how to exit the crumbling city, but Kujaku is worried about Aoba, so Clear told them that Aoba is heading towards the surface. The next morning, Kujaku, Noise, and Clear found Aoba among the rubble and helped him get up. He was happy to see their faces once again and checked on Ren, but to his surprise he didn't hear Ren's voice. Instead, the dog barks, prompting Aoba to hug it as he sobs. 1 year later, after the destruction of the Oval Tower at Platinum Jail, everything went back to normal. On his way out of work, Aoba got notified by some unknown caller that a family member of his was admitted in the hospital, so he should stop by. Aoba rushed over and saw someone who looked like Sei, but after hearing his voice, he cried, realizing